All right, this is Devil's Details 12. Before I get into Devil's Details 12 though, I am doing this on the afternoon of Friday, March 15th. I have completed the open now. I did 24.3 this morning. Not everyone has done it, but a lot of people have done it now. And while this experience is fresh in all of your guys' heads and fresh in my head while I have thoughts on it, I wanted to go over that briefly here at the beginning. So having said that, the Open is something that is a competitive event. There is a leaderboard, there is rankings. You do better than some people and not as good as others, and I like that. It adds a little level of stress to this. It adds some anxiety, and I think that's good. The Open shines an unflinching light on your engine, on your metabolic conditioning, on your ability to do grunt work when you are very fatigued. In the CrossFit pyramid, for physical attributes, metabolic conditioning is at the bottom of that pyramid. It is the foundation on which we build all the other cool stuff we get to do in CrossFit. And the Open is meant to test that, and it does a good job of testing that. And it is humbling for all of us because it shows where your engine is at this point in time. So how should you grade success on the Open? And I'll tell you how I grade it and how I think you should too. I do not think it is whether you beat the person you've been eyeballing on the leaderboard. I do not think it is whether you finished at the percentage you wanted to finish in going into this year, if you had something like that in mind. There's a lot of factors we can't control, what the workouts are, who else is doing the workout across the whole world, all those things. But I want you to look back and see, did you give max effort? If you were laying on the floor gasping for breath, as I was, I puked on 2 of 3 of these. I did not on this last one. If you gave max effort, then that is the metabolic conditioning you are capable of at this time. That is the output, the work output you can do at this point in time, and that's it. And if you don't like that, there's nothing we can do about it right now by redoing the workout and trying harder. I know sometimes we aren't satisfied with our score, and if you mess something up, if you didn't understand the rules, if it was a really bad day, then there may be a point to redo it. But if it's just, man, I really wish I'd done better. Yeah, I do too. But that doesn't mean we're going to get a better score by going again. Here is how you get a better score. Here is how you beat yourself at the 2024 Open and the 2025 Open. It is tomorrow and this week and this month and going forward, training hard. Working that engine and pushing with the same kind of effort you gave on each of these Open workouts. It does not mean trying to finish at the top of the leaderboard or over whoever you want to beat on the leaderboard and quantify each day in class. It means often finishing lower on the leaderboard in class. It means trying to string together more pull-ups, even if you know that's going to wear you out. It means going touch and go on power cleans and deadlifts. Why do we not want to do that? Because it sends our heart rate to the moon and it's hard. You bet. And it works your metabolic conditioning. Next year at the Open, you can go to singles again on power cleans and deadlifts if there is strategy for that. In between now and then, go touch and go. String together more reps. Finish lower on the leaderboard and quantify because you're training your engine. You're training your metabolic conditioning. Work on full range of motion. Make sure you're getting low enough on your squats and getting your chin over the bar on pull-ups and getting full extension on deadlifts. Work on these things now so they're automatic, so you're not having to try and emphasize that next year when someone is counting for you and watching your form. When you're going now in workouts, train to, instead of taking 10-second breaks, take 5-second breaks. Take 3-second breaks instead of 8-second breaks. And next year, when you want to get a higher score, you will be capable of doing that. And you will kick this year's version of you. You will beat that person in next year's Open. So it is not by saying I'm going to try harder next year. I think most of us tried very hard. I think the nature of this, when someone's counting and because of the energy in the room, you tend to try very hard. We all do. I watch the classes. Everybody is trying very hard. It is in between now and then that the difference can be made so that you can do better next year. So remember this feeling. Remember not being satisfied. Remember thinking, man, I wish I'd done better, because you can do something about it. And it starts tomorrow. All right, guys, Devil's Details 12 is the 5 and 10 rule or the too much rule. Last week was the 2 times a week. going over the movements I want to hit regularly in class, at least twice a week. This is making sure we don't hit certain movements too much. And specifically, for the 5 times a month rule, this is 5 times a month now, the last one was weekly, we're not going to deadlift more than 5 times in any given month. That's basically once a week with an extra one thrown in there somewhere, giving me a little cushion on that. And that is because the deadlift is a powerful stimulus. It is a wonderful tool to use that elicits all kinds of changes in your body, but it can definitely be used too much. And plus, the reason it's only 5 is we pull off the ground a lot of other ways. We do power cleans, we do power snatches, we do all that kind of stuff. We are still hinging off the ground. And so those same muscles are getting worked in different fashions than the deadlift, but they're still getting worked. And so that is something I've learned over time, that I want to use the deadlift and use it regularly, but there can definitely be too much of a good thing. The 10 times a month is for squatting. So that's basically 2 times a week, if you think about it, with a couple of extras thrown in. And that's because, again, we train 7 days a week, or I program for 7 days a week. There are classes every day of the week, so I need to throw a couple of those extra days in for squatting. The reason that's 10 instead of 5 is because of all the varieties of squat that we do. Wall balls, thrusters like today, front squat, overhead squat, back squat, all of these, the air squats, all of these movements are getting us below parallel and using those same muscles, but in slightly different ways. I think the overhead squat is a slightly different stimulus than the front squat. One's in the front rack, one's locked out overhead. There's other factors involved, but that's why I think you can still get below parallel. It's a very foundational movement we can do, but there's still a limit to that too. And so as I go through, as I put the workouts out there on each week and for the month, I'll go back and count. Did I accidentally throw in 1 too many deadlift workouts? Did I accidentally throw in 1 too many squatting workouts? Can I change one of those movements? I can change it to hip hinging from the hang, maybe going shoulder to overhead. Maybe I can change it to a monostructural movement in that workout to make sure we're not getting too much work on those specific standards. I think some of you guys may have heard me use this analogy before. I compare CrossFit often to a chainsaw. You need to know how to use a chainsaw before you go out and go crazy with it. Once you know how to use it, for what it's used for, I don't know of a better tool. You can get a lot of work done with a chainsaw. But having said that, yes, if you don't know how to use it and don't respect it, you can do a lot of damage with it. CrossFit is the same way. The reason it is so effective is because it is powerful. And so we need to know how to do this workout, how we work out day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, correctly. And so the same would be said for squats and deadlifts. There's been the argument out there, if you could only pick one, would you rather squat or deadlift? I will cheat and say both. Deadlift teaches you to pick things up off the ground. I want to be able to do that my whole life. I want to be able to pick up Scarlett. I want to be able to pick up groceries. I want to be able to move things. And the deadlift teaches you how to do that. Squatting, I want to be able to sit down and stand up. Whether I'm going to the bathroom, sitting on the couch, getting out of the car, whatever I'm doing, I want to be able to stand up the rest of my life. And so I consider both of these essential movement patterns that I want to be able to do right until I drop dead. So I'm not picking. I will say you need both. That is pretty much it for this rule. We've done 2 devil's details in a row here. So last week, was the 2 times a week. This is the 5 and 10 rule. Next one will also be another rule specifically about how I limit certain movements in class. This is another Dan original rule. As you guys know, some of these rules I've borrowed or gotten the idea from other people, and I've tried to give credit where credit is due on that. Kind of like the Metcon first, that was Devil's Details 3. The thruster rule I did a while back, that was Devil's Details 10. Some of these are some I've come up with on my own as I realize my tendencies as a programmer. And this is definitely one of those that I realized my tendency was to program deadlifts and squats too much, and this limits me on that. The next one I will do will be another addendum. I read an article recently talking about what makes beautiful people, what is beauty, and it made me think about the fact that I believe CrossFit makes the most beautiful people. And so that is what the next episode of this will be about, is CrossFit and making beautiful people. All right, guys, the open has been fun. I'll see you in class this week.